The thing about watching your wife flirt with another man at a Halloween party is that everyone else sees it too, but nobody wants to tell you. They just stand there sipping their beers, pretending the elephant in the room isn't wearing a Catwoman costume and grinding against Tarzan by the punch bowl. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Derek Lane, 39 years old, district manager for a chain of family restaurants, and apparently the biggest fool in suburban Cleveland. At least that's what the whispers suggested as I watched my wife Mara work the room like she was auditioning for a role I didn't know was open. "Derek, you seeing this?" John nudged me with his elbow. He'd been my friend since high school, back when we both thought we'd conquer the world instead of just trying to pay our mortgages on time. "Hard to miss," I replied, taking another swig of my beer. The amber liquid tasted bitter, but not as bitter as watching Dominic Cross put his hands on my wife's waist while she giggled like a teenager. Richard's house was packed with the usual neighborhood crowd. Richard himself was dressed as a pirate, complete with an eye patch that kept slipping down his face. His wife Nikki had gone all out as Wonder Woman, and she was currently giving me sympathetic looks from across the room. The kind of looks that said she knew something I should probably know too. "Superman could totally kick the Hulk's ass," someone was arguing loudly near the kitchen. "Superior intellect, tactical thinking, flight advantage." "You're insane," came the response. "Hulk gets stronger the angrier he gets. Superman's got limits." I found myself thinking about anger, about limits, about what happens when you push a man too far. My wife was currently pressed against Dominic Cross like they were slow dancing to music only they could hear, even though the stereo was blasting classic rock loud enough to wake the dead. Dominic worked at the Ford plant, spent most of his free time at the gym, and had the kind of cocky swagger that made women forget they were married. His wife Susie was Mara's best friend, which made this whole situation even more twisted. Susie was standing right there, dressed as some kind of sexy devil, encouraging the whole thing with little squeals and giggles. "Some men just can't handle a real woman," I heard Susie say to Mara, loud enough for half the party to hear. "Right, Mara?" Mara's laugh was like broken glass. "Oh, you know it, girl. Some men think marriage means you're supposed to become invisible." I felt every eye in the room flick toward me, then quickly away. The conversations got a little louder, a little more forced. Someone cranked up the music. I'd been married to Mara for 8 years. We'd met when I was managing a restaurant downtown, and she was working in HR for a medical supply company. She was beautiful then, still is, with dark hair that catches light like silk, and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. But somewhere along the way, that smile stopped being meant for me. "Derek, come settle this argument," Richard called out, waving me over to the kitchen. "Superman versus Hulk, who wins?" I walked over, stepping carefully around couples who were dancing, talking, or in Mara and Dominic's case, doing whatever the hell that was supposed to be. "Depends on the circumstances," I said, grabbing another beer from the cooler. "Superman's got the advantage in a straight fight, but the Hulk's unpredictable. Sometimes the underdog surprises everyone." "See? I told you." The guy in the Superman costume pumped his fist. "Superior strategy always wins." I glanced back at Mara and Dominic. They'd moved closer to the sliding glass door that led to Richard's back deck. Dominic was whispering something in her ear, his hand resting on the small of her back. She was nodding, biting her lower lip in that way she used to do when we were dating, and she was thinking about taking me home. "You okay, man?" Richard asked quietly, following my gaze. "Never better," I lied. "Just thinking about how people show their true colors when they think nobody's watching." Richard's expression grew uncomfortable. "Derek, maybe you should..." "Should what? Talk to my wife? Ask her to dance with her own husband instead of the neighborhood stud?" I kept my voice level, conversational. "Nah, I'm good. Sometimes it's better to just watch the show." But I wasn't good. I was the opposite of good. I was a man standing in a room full of people who were pretending not to notice that his marriage was dissolving in real time, and I was starting to think that maybe it was time to stop being the nice guy who just took it. I walked over to where Mara and Dominic were still wrapped around each other like teenagers at prom. "Hey, honey," I said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "Great party, right? Really brings out everyone's true nature." Mara stepped back from Dominic, but not far enough. Not nearly far enough. "Derek, there you are. Dominic was just telling me about his new workout routine." "I bet he was." I smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "Dominic, that's quite a costume. Very authentic, though I always thought Tarzan was supposed to be the king of the jungle, not the village idiot." Dominic's face darkened. He was bigger than me, younger, and clearly thought his muscles gave him some kind of advantage. Just having a friendly conversation with your wife, Derek. No need to get territorial. Territorial? I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. Brother, I'm not territorial. I'm just observant. And what I observe is that you seem to have forgotten that the woman you're pawing is married to someone who's standing right here. The conversations around us started to die down. People were definitely watching now. Mara grabbed my arm. Derek, you're being ridiculous. We were just talking. Sure you were. The kind of talking that requires full body contact, apparently. I looked directly at Dominic. You know, Dom, I was just telling Richard about underdogs and surprises. How sometimes the guy everyone underestimates is the one who ends up winning in the end. Dominic stepped closer. You got something you want to say to me, Derek? I could smell his cologne, something expensive and aggressive. I could see the veins in his neck, the way his jaw was clenched, the slight tremor in his hands that suggested he was thinking about throwing a punch. I used to box. Not professionally, just at the gym, but I was good at it. Good enough to know that the guys who puff up and make threats are usually the ones who've never been hit back by someone who knows how to hit. Just that it's interesting how some people think they can take whatever they want, I said quietly. But everything has consequences, you know? Every action, every choice, every betrayal. The bill always comes due eventually. Before Dominic could respond, I turned to Mara. Ready to go home, sweetheart? I think we've both seen enough for one night. Mara's face was flushed, whether from embarrassment or anger, I couldn't tell. I'm not ready to leave yet. Of course you're not. I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on Richard's kitchen counter. Well, I am. You can catch a ride with your friend here, or with Susie, or however you want to handle it. I'm done pretending everything's normal. I started toward the door, then stopped and turned back. The whole party was watching now, not even pretending to have other conversations. Oh, and Mara? When you do decide to come home, we should probably have that talk we've been avoiding. The one about honesty and respect and what happens when someone pushes their luck too far. I walked out into the October night, leaving behind the warmth and light and the sound of my wife calling my name. But I didn't look back. I'd done enough looking back. Time to start looking forward. The drive home was 15 minutes of Arctic silence. Mara had caught a ride with Susie and gotten home about an hour after me, long enough for me to sit in my kitchen and think about what I'd seen, what I knew, and what I was going to do about it. She came through the door like a storm front, all righteous indignation and wounded pride. How dare you embarrass me like that in front of everyone? She snapped, throwing her purse on the counter hard enough to knock over the salt shaker. Making a scene, acting like some jealous caveman. I was sitting at our kitchen table, still in my costume. I'd gone as a detective, complete with fedora and fake badge. The irony wasn't lost on me. Embarrass you? I kept my voice calm, level. Mara, you were practically dry humping another woman's husband in front of half the neighborhood. If anyone should be embarrassed, it's me. We were just dancing. God, Derek, when did you become so paranoid and controlling? About the time my wife started acting like she was single. She started to pace, her heels clicking on the kitchen tile. The Catwoman costume looked different now, away from the party lights and the crowd. It looked desperate, like she was trying too hard to be someone she wasn't. You know what your problem is? She said, spinning to face me. You've gotten comfortable, complacent. You think just because we're married, you don't have to try anymore. Try what? Try to compete with muscle-bound idiots who hit on married women at parties. Try to be interesting. Try to be exciting. When's the last time you surprised me, Derek? When's the last time you made me feel like a woman instead of just a roommate? I stood up slowly, walked to the counter, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady, which surprised me. Inside, I felt like I was coming apart. But outside, I was calm as a lake before a storm. You want to know when I last surprised you? I said. How about right now? Because the old Derek, the comfortable Derek, would have believed your bullshit about just dancing and apologized for making a scene. But this Derek knows exactly what he saw. Which was what, exactly? I pulled out my phone and set it on the counter between us. Which was my wife flirting with another man like I didn't exist. Which was my wife letting that man touch her in ways that would make a prostitute blush. Which was my wife acting like she wished she was anywhere but married to me. Mara's face went pale. Derek, I'm not done. I held up a hand. See, the thing about being comfortable and complacent is that people think you're not paying attention. They think you're stupid, or blind, or just don't care. But you know what I've been doing while you thought I wasn't paying attention? She didn't answer. I've been watching. I've been listening. I've been noticing things like how you always have your phone face down now. How you started going to the gym at different times than you used to. How you bought new lingerie that I've never seen you wear. Her hand moved instinctively toward her phone, which was sitting in her purse. So, here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to stop insulting my intelligence by pretending tonight was innocent, and I'm going to stop pretending I don't know what's really going on. What's that supposed to mean? It means the comfortable Derek is dead, Mara, and you're not going to like the one who replaced him? She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker across her face. Fear, maybe, or recognition that the man she'd been taking for granted wasn't the same man standing in front of her now. I'm going to bed, she said finally. Good idea. You'll want to be rested. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. After she left, I sat back down at the kitchen table and really looked at my phone. It would be so easy to check her messages, to look through her photos, to confirm what I already knew. But I didn't need to. I'd seen enough at the party to know where this was heading. Instead, I started thinking about Dominic Cross, about his job at the plant, his routine at the gym, his habits and weaknesses, and the things that mattered to him. I thought about Susie, and how she'd encouraged Mara's behavior like it was all a game. I thought about the people at the party who'd watched and whispered and felt sorry for poor Derek Lane. By morning, I had a plan. I left for work early, before Mara was awake. I had 3 restaurants to check on, and I wanted to make a stop on the way. The Ford plant where Dominic worked was a massive complex on the east side of town. I didn't go inside. I just sat in my car in the visitor parking lot and watched the shift change. Dominic drove a black Camaro that he'd obviously spent a lot of money on. Custom wheels, tinted windows, the kind of car a man drives when he wants everyone to know he thinks he's special. I followed him to his gym after work. Gold's Gym on Maple Street, the kind of place where guys like Dominic went to see and be seen. I sat in the parking lot and watched him swagger in, carrying his gym bag like he owned the place. Then I went home and waited. Mara was in the kitchen when I walked in, making dinner like nothing had happened. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, looking like the woman I'd married instead of the predator I'd seen at the party. "How was work?" she asked, not looking up from the stove. "Productive. Very productive." I hung up my jacket and loosened my tie. "How was your day?" "Fine. Normal." "Good. Normal's important." We ate dinner in relative silence, making small talk about work and the weather and anything except what had happened the night before. But I could see her watching me, trying to figure out what was different, what had changed. After dinner, I helped her with the dishes, kissed her cheek, and told her I was going out for a while. "Where are you going?" "Just some errands. I'll be back later." I drove to Gold's Gym and parked next to Dominic's Camaro. The parking lot was well lit, but there were plenty of shadows between the cars. I walked around his car slowly, admiring the paint job, the expensive rims, the custom exhaust. Then I took out the small bag of sugar I'd brought and carefully poured it into his gas tank. It's a myth that sugar will destroy a car engine. It won't, but it will cause problems, expensive problems that will leave someone stranded and frustrated and wondering what went wrong. I also left something else, a small sticker on his windshield. Tarzan was here, in bold letters, the kind of thing you could buy at any novelty shop. Then I drove to the gym and went inside. Dominic was at the bench press, surrounded by his usual crowd of admirers. I walked over to the locker area and found his locker, number 247, same as his license plate. The combination lock was one of those cheap ones that you could open with a little patience and the right technique. Inside, I left a note. "Real men don't need loincloths." Then I went home and waited for the phone to ring. It rang at 9:47 p.m. "Derek?" Mara's voice was tight, worried. "Susie just called. Dominic's car broke down at the gym. Someone vandalized it." "That's terrible," I said, not looking up from my book. "I hope he has good insurance." "Derek, you wouldn't..." I looked at her then, really looked at her. "Wouldn't what, Mara?" "Wouldn't get upset about my wife cheating on me. Wouldn't do something about it when some asshole thinks he can take what's mine?" "I'm not cheating on you." "No? Then why do you care so much about what happens to Dominic Cross?" She didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, I was leaving for work when I saw Dominic's car being towed past our house. Well, he was standing on the sidewalk, talking on his phone, looking frustrated and confused. When he saw me, he started walking over. I got out of my car and waited for him. "You son of a bitch," he said when he got close enough. "You did this?" "Did what?" "You know what. My car, the note, all of it." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Dominic, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I have to say, you look upset. Maybe you should be more careful about the choices you make." He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the anger in his eyes, close enough to smell his cologne from the night before. You think you're smart? You think this changes anything? I think, I said quietly, that you should be very careful about what you do next. Because I'm not the comfortable, complacent husband you thought you were dealing with. I'm something else entirely, and if you keep pushing, you're going to find out exactly what that is. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression. Maybe he remembered that I used to box. Maybe he just realized that the man standing in front of him wasn't the same man who'd walked away from the party 2 nights ago. This isn't over, he said finally. No, I agreed. It's not. But you might want to think real hard about whether you want to see how it ends. He walked away, and I got in my car and drove to work. But I was already planning my next move. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it's about someone getting their comeuppance. By the time I got to work, 3 different people had already called to tell me about Dominic's car troubles. The story was growing with each telling. First it was just a breakdown, then vandalism, then a full-scale attack by unknown enemies. I listened to each version with appropriate concern and made all the right sympathetic noises. That's terrible, I said. Who would do such a thing? But inside, I was planning phase 2. My friend Marcus worked at the Ford plant with Dominic. We'd gone to high school together, and he owed me a favor from when I'd helped him get his son a job at one of my restaurants. I called him during my lunch break. Marcus, I need you to do something for me, I said. Nothing illegal, nothing that'll get you in trouble, just some strategic conversation. What kind of conversation? The kind where you mention to a few people that Dominic Cross has been bragging about his extracurricular activities. You know, the married woman he's been seeing, how her husband doesn't suspect anything, how easy it is to take what you want when the other guy's not paying attention. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Derek, is this about Mara? This is about teaching someone a lesson about consequences. Shit, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can do that. Dominic's not exactly popular around here anyway. Guys like him never are. Thanks. I owe you one. No, we're even. That asshole's had it coming for a while. By the end of the week, Dominic was radioactive at the plant. Nobody wanted to work with him, eat lunch with him, or associate with him. The rumors had grown and mutated until he was supposedly bragging about sleeping with half the married women in town. His supervisor started giving him the worst shifts, the jobs nobody wanted. But that was just the beginning. Richard called me on Friday night. Derek, you need to come to Murphy's bar tomorrow night. There's a thing happening. What kind of thing? The kind where someone gets what's coming to them. Murphy's bar was the kind of place where blue-collar guys went to drink beer, watch sports, and settle arguments the old-fashioned way. Not with fists, Murphy didn't allow fighting, but with public humiliation and social exile. Saturday night, I walked into Murphy's to find it packed. Word had gotten out that there was going to be some kind of confrontation, and half the neighborhood had shown up to watch. Dominic was there, sitting at the bar with a beer, trying to look casual. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes kept scanning the room. Derek, Murphy called out from behind the bar. Good to see you. Heard you've been having some interesting times lately. Life's full of surprises, I said, ordering a beer. Never know what's going to happen next. That's when John stood up from his table near the back. Hey, Dominic, he called out, loud enough for the whole bar to hear. Heard you've been doing some bragging lately, about your conquests and such. The bar got quiet. Everyone turned to look at Dominic, who had gone pale. I don't know what you're talking about, Dominic said. No? That's funny, because half the plant says you've been running your mouth about married women and stupid husbands. Real specific stories, too. I sipped my beer and watched. This wasn't my doing. Not directly. This was just what happened when you bragged about the wrong things to the wrong people in a town where everybody knew everybody else. That's bullshit, Dominic said, standing up from his bar stool. Who's saying that? Does it matter? This came from a guy I didn't recognize, someone from the plant. Point is, you've been disrespecting people. Good people. People with families. And that's not right, said another voice. Man who cheats with someone's wife is bad enough. Man who brags about it is worse. Dominic looked around the room, seeing the faces, reading the mood. He was outnumbered and outmatched, and he knew it. This is ridiculous, he said. I'm out of here. But as he headed for the door, someone, I think it was Richard, stuck out his foot. Dominic tripped, stumbled, and went down hard. His beer bottle shattered on the floor, and he ended up on his hands and knees in a puddle of beer and broken glass. The whole bar erupted in laughter. Careful there, Tarzan, someone called out. Jungle floor's slippery. Dominic got to his feet, his face red with humiliation and rage. His clothes were soaked, his hands were cut from the glass, and every person in the bar was laughing at him. He looked directly at me. This is your doing. My doing? I held up my hands in mock innocence. Dominic, I'm just here having a beer with friends. Not my fault you can't watch where you're going. You think this is funny? I think, I said, standing up, that you're a man who made some bad choices and now you're dealing with the consequences. And I think if you're smart, you'll learn from this experience and make better choices in the future. He started toward me, but Murphy stepped out from behind the bar. Not in my place, Murphy said firmly. You want to fight? Take it outside. But I'm betting everyone here would rather see you just leave. The crowd murmured agreement. Dominic looked around the room one more time, seeing nothing but hostile faces and contempt. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is, I replied. You just don't know it yet. He left, and the bar returned to normal. People bought me drinks, clapped me on the back, told me stories about their own cheating spouse situations. I was a hero, a man who'd stood up for himself and won. But I wasn't done, not even close. When I got home, Mara was waiting up for me. She'd been crying, her makeup was smeared, and her eyes were red. Derek, we need to talk. I'm listening. Susie called. She said Dominic got humiliated at Murphy's tonight. She said people are saying terrible things about him, about us. What kind of terrible things? That he's been bragging about us, about what we've been doing. I sat down across from her at the kitchen table. And what have you been doing, Mara? She looked down at her hands. Nothing. We haven't done anything. But you wanted to. Silence. Mara, I'm going to ask you one question, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Is there anything you want to tell me about you and Dominic Cross? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally looked up, her eyes were full of tears. I made a mistake, she whispered. What kind of mistake? We kissed. Once, after the gym last week. It didn't mean anything, it was just what? Just that I felt invisible, Derek, like I didn't matter to you anymore. Like we were just going through the motions. I nodded slowly. So you decided to go through the motions with someone else. It wasn't like that. What was it like? She couldn't answer. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our quiet suburban street. Normal houses, normal lives, normal people dealing with normal problems. Here's what's going to happen, I said without turning around. You're going to stop seeing Dominic Cross. You're going to stop talking to him, texting him, thinking about him. You're going to stop hanging around with Susie because she's the one who encouraged this whole thing. Derek, you can't tell me who I can be friends with. I turned around and looked at her. I'm not telling you anything, Mara. I'm explaining the consequences of your choices. You can keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And trust me, you won't like where that leads. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not the same man who walked out of that party last weekend. That man would have forgiven you, would have tried to work things out, would have gone to counseling and talked about feelings and communication. And you won't? The man I am now? He believes in consequences. He believes that people should pay for their mistakes, and he's very, very good at making sure they do. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Monday morning, I did something I'd never done in 8 years of marriage. I went to the bank without telling Mara. Our accounts were joint, which meant I had every legal right to move money around, close accounts, and open new ones. I moved our savings into a new account with only my name on it. I canceled the credit cards and opened new ones. I changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance and retirement accounts. All perfectly legal. All completely within my rights as a married man protecting his assets. Then I went to see a lawyer. I'm not ready to file for divorce, I told him, but I want to be prepared. I want to know what my options are, what I'm entitled to, what she can and can't do. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, looked over the financial documents I'd brought. You've been smart about this, she said. Moving the money, canceling the cards. If she's been having an affair, you're protecting yourself from any financial surprises. What kind of surprises? Credit card bills for hotels, gifts for the other man, that sort of thing. I've seen women rack up $50,000 in debt buying presents for their boyfriends, then leave their husbands stuck with the bill. I hadn't thought of that, but it made sense. What else should I be doing? Document everything. Keep records of her behavior, her lies, any evidence of the affair. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery can still affect the division of assets and alimony. I'm not sure I want a divorce. What do you want? I thought about it. I want her to understand that actions have consequences. I want her to realize what she's throwing away. I want her to choose me, but only if she really wants to. And if she doesn't? Then I want to make sure she regrets it. That afternoon, I got a call from Mara. She was crying, barely coherent. Derek, something's wrong with our credit cards. They're not working. And I tried to transfer money from savings for groceries, but the account is empty? That's strange, I said calmly. Maybe there's a problem with the bank's computer system. Can you call them, please? I'm stuck at the grocery store and I can't pay for anything. I'm in a meeting right now, but I'll handle it when I get home. When will that be? Later, I have a lot of work to catch up on. I didn't go home until almost 9 o'clock. Mara was waiting in the kitchen, furious. What the hell is going on, Derek? The bank says you moved all our money. They says you canceled our credit cards. I protected our assets, I said simply. Given recent events, I thought it was prudent. Recent events? Your affair with Dominic Cross. It's not an affair. I told you, we only kissed once. Once that you've admitted to. But we both know there's more, don't we? She didn't answer. Here's how this works now, I continued. I control the money. I pay the bills. You want something, you ask me for it. You want to go somewhere, you clear it with me first. You want to see someone, you make sure I approve. You can't do this. I just did. And it's all completely legal. We're married, Mara. What's mine is yours. And what's yours is mine. I'm just making sure you remember which one of us has been paying for everything all these years. She stared at me in shock. This isn't you, Derek. This isn't who you are. You're right. The Derek you married was weak. He was trusting. He was the kind of man who could be cheated on and manipulated and taken for granted. But that Derek is gone. What do you want from me? I want you to choose, him or me, the life you've been living behind my back, or the marriage you promised to honor when we stood up in front of God and everybody and made vows. And if I choose you? Then we start over. Clean slate. But there are conditions. What conditions? No more Susie. No more girls' nights out. No more gym sessions with Dominic. No more lies. No more secrets. No more taking me for granted. That's not a marriage, Derek. That's a prison. No, Mara. A prison is what you've been living in. A prison of lies and guilt and sneaking around. What I'm offering you is freedom. The freedom to be honest, to be faithful, to be the woman I married instead of the stranger you've become. She was crying again, but they were angry tears now. And if I don't choose you? Then you get nothing. No money, no house, no comfortable life subsidized by someone else's hard work. You get to find out what it's like to live on a factory worker's salary because that's what your boyfriend makes. He's not my boyfriend. Then prove it. That night, she slept in the guest room. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd gone too far. But then I remembered the way she'd looked at Dominic at the party, the way she'd let him touch her, the way she'd lied to my face about it afterward. No, I hadn't gone too far. I hadn't gone far enough. The next morning, I installed security cameras around the house. Doorbell camera, driveway camera, cameras covering all the entrances, all perfectly legal. It was my house, my property. What are those for? Mara asked when she saw me setting them up. Security. You never know who might try to break in, steal something that doesn't belong to them. She got the message. That afternoon, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the driveway camera. I opened the app and saw Dominic's replacement car, a beat-up Honda that was a far cry from his beloved Camaro, pulling into my driveway. I watched as he got out and walked to my front door. I watched as Mara let him in. I saved the video and kept working. An hour later, another alert. Dominic leaving. But this time, he wasn't alone. Mara came out with him, carrying a suitcase. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail, so I called the police. I'd like to report a break-in, I said. Someone came to my house while I was at work and took property that doesn't belong to them. What kind of property, sir? Clothes, jewelry, personal items. My wife let them in, but she doesn't have the legal right to give away marital assets without my consent. It was a gray area, legally speaking, but it was enough to get a police car sent to wherever they were going. They were at Dominic's apartment. The police found them there with my wife's suitcase full of clothes and jewelry that had been purchased with my money during my marriage. Technically, it was theft. Mara called me from the police station. Derek, please, don't do this. I was just leaving for a few days to think things through. Where were you going to think, Mara? At Dominic's apartment. In his bed? It's not like that. Then come home. Right now. Come home and we'll talk. And if I don't? Then you can explain to a judge why you thought it was okay to steal marital property and move in with your boyfriend. She came home, but she wasn't alone. Susie was with her, and she was furious. You bastard, she screamed at me as soon as she walked through the door. How dare you have Mara arrested? How dare you treat her like a criminal? I didn't have her arrested, I said calmly. I reported a theft, which is what happened. She took property that legally belongs to both of us and gave it to her boyfriend. Dominic is not her boyfriend. Then what is he? Susie looked at Mara, then back at me. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's simple. My wife has been having an affair and you've been helping her. Now you're both dealing with the consequences. You can't control her like this. I'm not controlling anyone. I'm just making sure everyone understands the rules. Mara is free to leave any time she wants. But she's not free to steal from me, and she's not free to use my money to fund her new life with someone else. Mara was sitting on the couch, looking defeated. Derek, what do you want from me? I want you to choose. Make a decision. All in or all out. But no more of this halfway bullshit where you get to have your cake and eat it too. And if I choose him, then you get nothing from me. No money, no support, no safety net. You get to find out what it's really like to be with a man who can't even afford to fix his own car. Susie stood up. Come on, Mara, you don't have to listen to this. But Mara didn't move. She just sat there, looking at me with something that might have been fear or respect, or maybe just recognition that the man she'd been taking for granted was gone forever. I need time to think, she said finally. You have until tomorrow night, I replied. After that, I'm filing papers. They left, and I sat in my empty house, surrounded by security cameras and legal documents and the wreckage of a marriage that had died the moment my wife decided I wasn't enough for her. But I wasn't sad. I was something else entirely. I was ready for the end game. Wednesday night came like a storm front, heavy and inevitable. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reviewing the divorce papers Patricia Chen had prepared, when the doorbell rang. The security camera showed all three of them, Mara, Dominic, and Susie, standing on my porch like some twisted version of Christmas carolers. Mara looked nervous. Susie looked defiant. Dominic looked like a man who'd been backed into a corner and was ready to fight his way out. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We need to talk, Mara said. So talk. Can we come in? It's cold out here. I stepped aside and let them enter, but I didn't offer them seats or drinks or any of the basic courtesies I might have shown to actual guests. Well, I said. Dominic stepped forward. He'd obviously been elected spokesman for this little delegation. Look, Derek, this has gotten out of hand. We're all adults here. We should be able to work this out without lawyers and police and all this drama. Drama? I almost laughed. Dominic, you fucked my wife, or tried to. There's nothing dramatic about that. It's just pathetic. Hey! Susie snapped. Don't you dare... Don't I dare what? Tell the truth? Call it what it is? I looked at each of them in turn. You want to know what's pathetic? What's pathetic is a grown man who hits on married women. What's pathetic is a wife who throws away 8 years of marriage for some gym rat with a fancy car. What's pathetic is a friend who encourages her best friend to cheat on her husband. You don't understand, Mara said. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. Make me understand why my wife decided I wasn't good enough anymore. She couldn't answer. None of them could. Here's what I think happened, I continued. I think you got bored. I think you started feeling like you deserved better, deserved more excitement, more attention, more drama. So you started flirting with Dominic here, and he was happy to oblige because that's what guys like him do. They take what they can get from other men's wives, and they don't care about the damage they cause. It wasn't like that, Dominic said. No? Then what was it like? It was... we connected. We had something real. Something real? I stared at him. You had something real with a married woman who was lying to her husband every day. You think that's a foundation for something lasting? More lasting than what you two have, Susie interjected. When's the last time you made Mara feel special, Derek? When's the last time you surprised her, or romanced her, or made her feel like she was the most important thing in your world? When's the last time she acted like she wanted to be? The room went quiet. See, that's the thing you people don't understand, I said. Marriage isn't a performance. It's not about constantly proving your worth to someone who's already promised to love you. It's about building something together, day by day, year by year. But that takes commitment. That takes loyalty. That takes actually giving a damn about the person you married. I do give a damn about you, Mara said quietly. No, you don't. If you gave a damn about me, you wouldn't have kissed another man. You wouldn't have let him touch you at that party. You wouldn't have been planning to leave me for him. I wasn't planning to leave you. Then what were you planning? She didn't have an answer for that either. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up the divorce papers. Since you can't seem to make a decision, I've made one for you. I'm filing for divorce. Adultery, irreconcilable differences, the whole package. Derek, please. I'm done, Mara. I'm done being the understanding husband. I'm done being the guy who tries to work things out while his wife is shopping for a replacement. I'm done being taken for granted by someone who promised to love, honor, and cherish me. Dominic stepped closer. You can't just destroy her life because you're angry. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just stopping the subsidies. No more free ride, no more safety net, no more husband paying the bills while she plays house with someone else. You son of a bitch. Careful, Dominic. You're in my house talking to a man whose wife you tried to steal. I'd be very careful about what you say next. But he was past careful. He was angry and desperate and probably scared about what would happen to his comfortable arrangement with Mara once the money dried up. He took a swing at me. I saw it coming from a mile away. Dominic was bigger than me, younger than me, and probably stronger than me. But I'd been boxing since high school, and I knew how to move, how to block, how to counter. I slipped his punch, grabbed his wrist, and used his own momentum to send him face first into my kitchen wall. He bounced off and went down hard, his nose streaming blood onto my tile floor. Jesus Christ, Susie screamed. Mara just stared, her hand over her mouth. I stood over Dominic, who was groaning and trying to get back to his feet. Stay down, I told him. You got one free swing because you're upset. You don't get another one. You broke my nose. No, you broke your nose when you decided to throw a punch at someone who knows how to fight back. But consider it a learning experience. I helped him to his feet and handed him a kitchen towel for the blood. Now get out of my house, I said. All of you, and don't come back. Derek, Mara said, we can still work this out. We can go to counseling, we can... No, we can't. It's too late for that. You made your choice the moment you kissed him. You made your choice when you let him put his hands on you at that party. You made your choice when you packed a suitcase and moved in with him. I never moved in with him. You were going to. The only thing that stopped you was getting arrested for theft. She started crying then, real tears, not the manipulative ones she'd been using to try to make me feel guilty. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, Derek. I made a mistake. I was stupid and selfish, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there are consequences. You're sorry your comfortable life is about to end. But you're not sorry you did it, and you're not sorry you were going to keep doing it. That's not true, isn't it? If I hadn't found out, if I hadn't confronted you, how long would this have gone on? How long would you have kept lying to me, using me, making me look like a fool while you had your fun with him? She couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out, I said. All of you. I'm done talking. Dominic stumbled toward the door, still holding the bloody towel to his face. Susie followed him, shooting me looks that could have melted steel. Mara was the last to leave. She stopped in the doorway and looked back at me. This isn't who you are, Derek. This isn't the man I married. You're right, I said. The man you married was weak. He was trusting. He was the kind of man who could be taken advantage of and manipulated and betrayed. But you killed that man, Mara. You and your boyfriend and your friend who encouraged you to throw away your marriage for some excitement. So, who are you now? I smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who'd learned some hard truths about the world and the people in it. I'm the devil you chose, I said, and I always collect. I closed the door and locked it, then walked to the window to watch them leave. Dominic was leaning on Susie, blood still dripping from his nose. Mara was walking behind them, looking back at the house like she couldn't believe what had just happened. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I picked up my phone and called Patricia Chen. It's Derek Lane, I said when she answered. I want to file those papers first thing tomorrow morning, and I want to make sure Mara gets served at work, in front of everyone. Are you sure about that? It's pretty harsh. She humiliated me in front of half the neighborhood. Turnabout is fair play. What about the adultery claim? Do you have proof? I have video of her letting him into the house while I was at work. I have witness testimony from the party. I have her own admission that they kissed. It's enough. Okay, I'll have the papers ready. I hung up and poured myself a drink. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Normal families living their normal lives behind their normal windows. But I wasn't normal anymore. I wasn't the comfortable, complacent husband who could be taken for granted. I was something else entirely. Something harder, colder, more dangerous. I was a man who'd learned that sometimes the only way to win is to be willing to lose everything, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up early and made coffee. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by security cameras and legal documents, and waited for my phone to ring. It rang at 10:47 a.m. Derek? Mara's voice was shaky, broken. The papers. You really did it. I told you I would. Everyone saw. My whole office saw the process server. They know everything now. Good. Now they know what kind of person you really are. I lost my job, Derek. They fired me. Said I was a liability after the arrest, and now this. Actions have consequences, Mara. You taught me that. What am I supposed to do now? I have no money, no job, nowhere to go. You have Dominic. You have Susie. You have the life you chose instead of the one you promised me. Please, Derek, don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll sign any agreement, accept any conditions. Just don't destroy me. I thought about it. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 8 years, wanted to say yes. Wanted to take her back, forgive her, try to rebuild what we'd had. But that part was small now, overwhelmed by the part that remembered her lies, her betrayal, her complete lack of respect for our marriage and for me. It's too late, I said. You made your choice. Now live with it. I hung up the phone and finished my coffee. Outside, it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and somewhere in town, 3 people were learning what it meant to cross a man who'd finally stopped being nice. I smiled and got ready for work. After all, I had a life to rebuild, and this time I was going to do it right.